Ladies and gentlemen, I am super excited. Today is the pilot episode of the RealTop podcast. So, for those of you that are completely unaware and you're just tuning in right now, this is the pilot episode, episode number one. RealTop is a podcast that we created, a show that we created that really is going to feature real entrepreneurs, guys that are at the top of their A game, guys that are really, pushing it to the limit. I want to get into the minds of these people. Today, I'm super delighted not only to bring on a top producer, someone that is pushing it to the limit every single day, but also an amazing guy, a friend, a great guy to hang out with. So I couldn't think of anyone else that'd be more fun to chill with for the next half an hour, 10 hours, whatever you want, than the guy we're bringing on right now. So, guys, please say hello to Nick Copadis. Nick Copadis, over the last decade or so, has built a mortgage empire. This guy has gone to the depths of performance or peak performance when it comes to financial services. And I wanted to get into his brain and just have a good time. So, Nick, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, Nikita. I appreciate it. Thanks for the intro. That was, man, that's a big reputation to uphold.
Oh, you've got a rep. You've definitely got a reputation, and that's for sure. And it's for high performance. So, Nick, let's jump into it, man. First of all, tell us a little bit about yourself currently. Where are you at today? What's your life like? I'm curious.
So, right now my life it's a little complicated, right? So, obviously with everything that's going on, still working the same amount of hours that I've always had throughout my, entire, you know, throughout my entire professional career in the mortgage industry, right? My wife right now, she's doing the remote learning with my 6-year-old.
Yeah.
Plus I have a 1.5-year-old. So obviously, yeah, times have been a little bit challenging, but hey, listen, we adapt. This is what makes you, right, as a person, okay? This is how you succeed, etc. So listen, I'm still grinding. I'm still going, still putting in a lot of business. Rates are still great for the industry that I'm in. And that's it.
You know what? We're going to touch on this a lot because we've had lunch and coffee a couple of times recently. And this is like, you probably didn't notice, I was kind of probing you because I'm just so freaking intrigued. Right now, you are definitely operating at, peak performance. But at the same time, you've got a lot going on. You've got a lot on your plate. You've got a family. You got a young child. You've got hobbies that you love, which we've got to talk about snowmobiling because, I'm a little nuts with this stuff. How are you able to organize yourself day to day? Is it delegating? Is it just getting through the work? Like when you wake up in the day, what does it look like? You've got a lot on your plate and things are overflowing. How are you getting through that?
So that's a very good question. Number one, it starts with my team, right? It's all who you surround yourself with. And I instill my trust with them, right? So if they're able to basically drive my loans from start to finish, then I feel comfortable. Now, one thing that I have not let off the gas, the gas pedal on is definitely work hours. I'm still getting up typically around 5 a.m. in the morning.
5
right?
a.m. Holy smokes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I get up at 5 a.m. Usually make myself a cup of coffee. I always review and try to get my emails out of the way early in the day. Me personally, I'm OCD. So I built a script as well as a schedule that I live and abide by. And that script and that schedule actually allows me to still succeed in the business that I run, but it also gives me time to spend with my family. Okay.
And you know what? That's one of the things I appreciate that I appreciate about you. So in hanging out and talking, you're not like a one-trick pony. There's a lot of guys that are just working. They're just working. They do nothing else but work. And I talk to them. They're like, I'm hitting numbers, man. I just refied $2 billion of something or other. And I hear these numbers and they're mind-boggling. And I'm like, oh, what'd you do this week? And I worked. I'm like, you worked. What'd you do with all that money you made?
Right.
You just work more. I'm like, all right, that's I don't think that's the move. And I get it when things are hot. they're hot. You got to get the fruit off the tree. I get it, but you seem to be able to enjoy yourself as well. Even in your business meetings, interactions, I notice you enjoy yourself. So tell us a little bit about how you balance the day to day, and it could be stress for you. Maybe it's not. Maybe you just love what you do. But how do you balance the day to day with fun, with enjoyment? Like, what do you do on the weekends, man? What are you up to?
So obviously on the weekends, right? I mean, I try to spend as much time as I possibly can with my family. Without my wife, I mean, I wouldn't be where I am today. Okay. I mean, stay at home mom, but believe me, that's a lot of work, right? Me
Yeah.
personally, I don't know if I could handle it, to be honest with you, right? I mean, there's a lot of work that's involved there, okay? But again, I wake up early during the week, start my day off fresh, early, catch up on everything. I always have a time schedule. I always make time to have dinner with my family. That's number one, okay? However, I always keep my clients, updated, right? So then that way, if I handle all that business during the day, then I know at night it's taken care of. I can give her a break,
Do
spend
you
time with kids.
do you have a specific cutoff, Nick? Is there a time in the day where you've written it down and you're like, this is it, it's cut off, and then it's family time?
It's a good question. If it's something that can wait till the next business day, then yes. If it's something that's very important, then no. I'm going to have to drop it. Ashley, you're going to have to stay with the kids for a little bit. Let me handle this issue. And that's what I mean. My wife and I, we're partners.
Your
Right?
partners.
Not just in life, but in the business sense too.
In the business
Okay.
sense. What if you could tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now, Nick? I mean, you're a mortgage originator, and I love mortgage originators because I was one, and that's how you and I first met over a decade ago. We were both working at the same company, and that's an episode in itself. But we're gonna stick to present events, right? So you're both working in the same company, and you are, you're something that is, or what you do, I think, is very special because aside from helping people buy homes, you're kind of a unique entrepreneur. So this is a show about entrepreneurs, but it's also a show about top producers. And you're what I call an intrapreneur, actually. Okay, you're working at a company, but just because you work there doesn't mean a check shows up. You got to go out every single day and hustle and bring in the bacon every single day because at the end of the day, it's a sales position. Now, tell us where you're at right now. What company are you at? What area are you working on? If you could, I know, but maybe you could tell our listeners.
Of course. So basically, right now, I'm actually a current producing branch manager at Cross Country Mortgage. Recently joined here. Previously, before that, and this is where a lot of my business will typically come from, but I was actually on the wealth management side of Bank of America. So one thing that I did actually to separate myself from others, right, is not just delivering a product because of where the rate set is, but delivering a product that will actually meet clients' long-term goals, right? So how I go about doing that, I obviously don't just speak to the client. I also speak to their advisor. I also speak to their CPA, etc. And then we put together a product that will best fit them moving forward. It's the most important thing. A mortgage is one of the biggest investments, most important investment a person will make in their life. So what you got to do is you got to set them up for success. You got to make sure that.
How do you go about doing that, Nick? So,
Good question.
and actually, I'm intrigued because your particular clientele is of higher end. I mean, obviously, you'll help anybody, but you happen to have this big audience, this massive circle of people that are fairly affluent, buying the bigger home, the back bay, the ski house. You're doing the stuff that is on the higher end, and that type of client, I assume, demands a lot more. And that's my assumption because I haven't done the job in the way you do it. But what's it like dealing in this higher end? Are you having to produce a different level of service than maybe your fellow loan originator? Like what's that like for you?
So that's a very good question. I mean, I call it the white glove treatment. Okay. I always like to provide that white glove treatment. Now, it's not just for the affluent people, but it's for all my clients. Okay. I think they deserve that because, again, I'll touch on it. It's the biggest investment they might make in their lifetime, right? Now, one thing that I always like to go about with the affluent people is we always look at, all right, if I liquidate this much, how much am I going to pay in cap gains,
Okay.
right? So it might make sense with the low interest environment we're in to give them a higher dollar amount on the loan side. Because right now, the rates are below 3%, but the rate of return on their investments is over 5, right? So it might make more sense to keep those investments invested and actually leverage yourself more money. We look at that, we pan it out with the advisor as well as the CPA. We typically do a conference call on that, and then we find the best route that would best benefit their client.
Did you, when you started out your career in real estate and mortgages, were you catering to this type of clientele? Like how far along did it take before you got into this type of strategic thinking in partnerships? Like where along the line did this thinking happen? Because this is a very mature approach at
Yeah.
selling your product. Most guys I talk to that are selling anything, they're literally just extremely transactional. They want to sell it and move on, whatever it is they're selling. Maybe selling toasters, cars, high-end homes. It doesn't matter. But this is a lot more strategic. When did that happen for you? And because it's a very mature approach at this process that I haven't gotten a chance to really hear about.
Yeah, I mean, I agree big time. I actually started this approach in 2015. Got in the industry in 2007. Joined Bank of America. Based upon client reviews, I was actually picked to work with their wealth management side. When I got picked to work with their wealth management side, basically, I got to know a little bit on the financial investment side. Okay. And I saw how strategic these advisors were working. And that was my approach. I'm like, how about we integrate this with a mortgage, right? And how do we put together a plan? Because the number one goal here in this industry is to take care of your client, always, right? And that's really when I started thinking of this approach, was in 2015. Before then, it was just, hey, here's what you're going to save monthly based on your current mortgage. Would you like to proceed?
Would you like to proceed?
Now it's a little bit more complicated, right? Because you want to meet every single goal that that client has.
I can see where in our interactions together, I can see how detail oriented you are in your day to day, just the way you operate, just the way even you send me an email. It's always perfect and precise, and the comma's in the right place, the bullet points are in the right place. So I can see dealing with this type of audience, you've had to really just polish up, everything in your presentation. It's pretty impressive. Now, let's go off topic a little bit. Now, I want to dig a little bit into your career and what makes you tick. Okay, and this is where we're going to have some fun. Okay, now looking back, you started in this industry in 2007. Okay, what's the one thing you wish you had known? Just right before you started, as you were getting into this industry.
One thing that I would have known, geez, that's a good question, Nikita. I mean, I was a young guy at that, 2007.
Just a gunslinger, like a total cowboy.
I was 22. Listen, right? I wasn't looking at the long-term perspective. I think that's one thing that I regretted back then. I was looking at short-term, right? Me now, I mean, I'm more looking ahead, right?
We'll edit that out.
It doesn't stop, right? It doesn't stop. So,
we're not going to edit that out because I want people to hear how busy you are right now. They need to know what's going on in your life.
So I always was a short-term thinker right then. I wish I was more of a long-term thinker, right? As well as being organized. I think that is one of the main keys for you to succeed in this industry is being organized. When you tell someone you're going to follow up with them, you need to follow up with them at that time.
Yeah.
My calendar is full, right? Even when it's just a simple phone call, I put it in my calendar so that I know and I remember, hey, I got to follow up with this person this time.
It's interesting, right? You would assume that's something like a basic, just a basic, like following up, replying to people. Someone's emailed you, you replied the same day. Like, what a concept! But I have to say, I feel like, and you can tell me how you feel about this too. But I feel like in my day-to-day interactions in business, I feel like the bar is so damn low. It's for so many industries. You call someone, they don't even pick up. Never mind calling you back. Their voicemail box full. People can't reply to an email. You're getting replies 2 weeks later. I feel like the bar is low. So you're able to just do those basic things like reply to your emails each day, call everyone back, pick up the phone if you can, or unless you're on a podcast and you can't now. But and just doing the basics and being organized, it actually sets you so far above the norm, which is kind of sad to say about our society and how a lot of businesses are working right now, but it seems to be the theme. Let me ask another question, which is, you've had this career where you transition from a young guy, maybe a little, short-sighted, you weren't thinking long-term. You've become this super organized OCD person that knows how to cater to really a very affluent community. We learn from our failures, right? I mean, truly, okay? You put your hand over a fire, you get burnt once, you don't do it again. So what are a couple of your, say professional failures along the way that maybe help mold you and give you what you have today, which is incredible character and work ethic?
So that's a very good question. I think obviously before the 2015 era, where I explained to you earlier on getting with the well side, one thing was I wasn't as organized, right? I mean, in this business, you need to be organized because there's a lot of documentation that goes in the process of getting a mortgage, right? So when I was younger, I wasn't as organized where I have to ask for things multiple times, right? Now that's going to upset a client because then they're also like, Jesus, not just, not returning my calls, but he's also asking for the same documentation I provided to him 2 weeks ago, right? I mean, that's aggravating. The process itself, especially recently with all the laws that are in effect, right? And all the documentation that's needed, you need to be organized in order to provide a smooth transition for the client. And again, revert back to what I stated earlier, the white glove treatment, right?
The white glove treatment. And a lot of that, being organized, you hire assistants and you build teams and,
Correct.
and, based on our conversation, you've been recruiting, younger guys that need to get into the industry that are a little wet behind the ears. Like, what's some of the advice that you're giving some of these younger people, seeing that you have this experience now?
So that's a very good question. I mean, you can ask any of my processors right now that handle my files. I'm very involved still. So I don't just leave it with them and let them run with it. I'm still on top of things.
But for these, let's say someone getting into the industry and they look at Nick, they're like, all right, this guy he's built a professional career. He's at the top of his game right now. And they ask you, Nick, what advice what advice would you give to yourself right now? If you were looking in the mirror at 22 years old, what would you say to yourself, in terms of advice?
It's not a one and done, right? So that service that you actually provide to that client that you're handling right then and there is going to be reflective upon your future, right? They're not going to want to refer to you if you weren't calling them back. They're not going to refer their friends and family to you if you were repeatedly requesting the same items. I think organizational skills is key. I think, being honest, obviously, I mean, that's huge right there, right?
Yeah, what a concept, right?
Seriously.
What a concept. People
right.
just
exactly, And then, I mean, number 3 is doing what's right for the client, right? I mean, look at everything. Ask the questions. get to know what are they looking to do with that property in the next 10, 15 years down the line. Are they looking to sell? What's their long-term goals? Are they looking for monthly cash flow? Put them in a product that's going to make them succeed.
It's going to make them succeed. And it seems the running theme is thinking long-term as well. You know, if you're this strategic, long-term is, or thinking long-term is essential. And I got to tell you, I think I would give similar advice to myself when I was, 18 years old, 20 years old, doing sales and getting into real estate. I mean, if I could just get a check, I don't even have a bank account then. I'd get a check and go and cash it at Bank of America. I'd get my commission check, and it was gone before Sunday night, and that was it. And there was no care in the world and no long-term thinking. And I wish I'd had Uncle Nick to tell me what you just said. What are we all have people we look up to, guys that have really, guys that we want to emulate, guys or women or people that have influenced us in our lives, who would you say is your top influence, professionally and just day to day?
100% my father, right?
Why is that?
So was my mother. I mean, I feel like, I don't know. They taught me a lesson at an early age. Okay. I mean, I don't know if I should be saying this on live TV or not, but I was working at 9 years old, right? I mean,
oh yeah, all the labor laws are totally out the window.
I mean, come on. I mean, this is back in the day, but I was working at a young age. It taught me character. It taught me the lesson of hard work. My grandfather, big time, was an influence in my life. He had a very tough childhood. His parents died when he was 8 years old, right? He went in the military in his teens.
Here in the United States?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. When he came out of the military, he joined the Plumber Steamfitter Union. Okay. So he was a very hard worker, blue collar guy, right? Retired young, had a great life. But I was a little guy that also had to do all the work on the house, right? For free. Okay.
For free. No pay. Well, you can't break labor laws if you're not getting a wage, because technically you're not an employee. That's how they did it to me.
That's true. That's true. So I mean, I was mowing the lawn, learning how to run a lawnmower when I was 7 years old. I got a picture to prove it.
You have evidence.
Wheelbarrow stone around the house.
So Nick, you grew up, if you tell the listeners, you grew up in New Hampshire, correct?
Correct. I did. Yeah. In my early ages. Then I ended up moving to Bar Harbor, Maine. When I moved to Bar Harbor, Maine, freshman year, summer, I cut potatoes all summer.
You cut potatoes?
Home fries. Yeah.
What do you mean home fries? What was this job? Tell us more.
So I was sitting in a basement, right? And I was like a little nervous. All right, is there like mice down here? Is there,
was this like an uncle's restaurant or what was that?
They were friends with my mom. They were looking for help. Breakfast place, right? So I'd have to cut like 24 gallons of potatoes. Okay, I'm a freshman, right? So I'd filled these containers, and that was pretty much my mornings, days on the weekends. I saved my money, bought my first car, right? So, I mean, these things stuck with me.
These things stuck with you. I notice a common theme with clients of ours, fellow entrepreneurs, including you. It's like jobs when you were a kid. Like the guys that had to cut 50 bags of potatoes every day. Like I worked at a drive-through window overnights at 15 years old, right? Like in the graveyard shift. Like, every single person I speak to that is at the top of their game, there's a running theme here. When they were a kid, they had an awful job. It was just like a weird job, like cutting potatoes, working the drive-through window. Another guy was like, selling bottled water on the beach. Actually, that was a pretty good job. I would have taken that one. But there's a running theme there. And I'll tell you, even in my career, I used to get yelled at, 3 a.m. getting yelled at by drunk people, throwing things at me, working the drive-through window when I was a kid. And then you get to like a professional environment, all of a sudden our job is pressing plastic buttons and speaking on the phone. And it seems like a walk in the park. So there's some conditioning there. And I think that's one of the common denominators amongst quite a few successful people. They've been conditioned. I don't think they realize that they were conditioned. You probably didn't. You're probably just cutting potatoes to get money so you can like have a great weekend, and that was it. And I think that's
wasn't a great weekend, right? I mean, let's think about it. You're a freshman, you have weekend or summer or whatever, right? Comes up. I mean, you want to get out, you want to enjoy outside, go to the beach, whatever. I'd be cutting potatoes, man.
all weekend long.
That was it, right? So, I mean, but to be honest with you, when I go up and visit my mother, she still lives up in MDI, and we go have breakfast at Riverside Town. She still says, "You were the best worker I ever had."
Best worker I ever had.
Never complained. Did my job. That was it. So,
Nick, what's up with you these days? Like you're a thrill seeker, which is, by the way, another common denominator in RealTop entrepreneurs, intrapreneurs, producers. So you're a bit of a thrill seeker. Can you tell the audience about one of your, I'm going to call it a vice. It's a vice. It's loud and fast. Like, what are you doing on the weekend?
I mean, besides my life insurance premium going up year to year, one thing that I really enjoy, and I got into this, 2017, is snowmobile. I love it. I don't know why. I love being outdoors. I love being away from, society, people, whatever, and
which is shocking. You're a pretty extroverted, outgoing person. So the fact that you want to be away from society actually surprises me quite a bit.
I love it, right? I love getting on a snowmobile with my son and riding for 5 hours. And the most liveliest thing you'll see is a moose. Like, I'm not even kidding you, right? I mean, wow. It's beautiful. And seeing what God actually created, right?
Yeah.
From a land perspective, right? I mean, it's gorgeous not to see any buildings or smog or vehicles or streets, right? It's just you, your sled, my son, and nature. It's crazy. I love it. And when my son's not with me, speaking of thrill, right? I like to go fast. So
that was coming. I had a feeling.
Without my son, right? I mean, just like how we close loans.
Were you riding motorcycles before you got into snowboards?
So I actually used to ride a dirt bike.
Oh, there you go. So this is a slightly more civilized dirt bike.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's
a great time.
It's phenomenal. I'd love to get up there with you. Hopefully we get some more snow. We'll see.
I know.
And Nick, man, it's been fun to catch up with you. And I know, you're going to be on the show a lot. This is episode number 1 of RealTop. We got to get just a slight little glimpse into what goes into your head, how you organize your day-to-day, who inspires you, the common denominator of successful people, your job as a young man, how you cater to an affluent audience, which is a challenge. And thanks for being on the show, man. You're a great friend, and we just love you, man.
I love you too, man. You're the best, man. I appreciate it, and good things to 2021, guys.
Let's rock it. All right, Nick, guys. If you want to check out, if you need a mortgage, you want to check out Nick. Nick, where can these guys find you, buddy?
No problem, man. If you Google my name, that's Nick, Nick Copadis, Copadis at ccmmortgage.com. Feel free to reach out, definitely. And I'm sure you'll see me on social media.
Oh yeah, you definitely will. You'll see that. All right, guys, have a great day. Nick, see you, man.
Yeah. Nice seeing you, bud. Bye-bye.